Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order. And for anybody watching, welcome to the March 31st, 2020 meeting of the Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors meeting. This obviously is our first board meeting on that we're live streaming, and we hope that we have the kinks worked out. We did have a practice run last week, but if things don't go as smoothly as we hope, we're hoping that anybody who is watching will understand and have some patience with that. Normally we start with the pledge to the flag, which of course we don't have today and we're not doing, but I would just like to publicly say how much myself, and I'm sure the rest of the board, is an admiration of those who are out really fighting this virus on the front lines. Any medical personnel, people who have to be out just to keep our economy moving, whether they're delivery people for food or whatever it might be. So we certainly recognize that and acknowledge it, and we're very grateful for that. We are going to have a roll call in a minute, but anybody watching will probably, who follows us, will see that Mrs. Sullivan is not with us today. And again, myself and the board just want to send out our condolences and deep sympathy to Cindy and Terry as they deal with a significant loss in their family. We're sure praying for them, and hope to see Cindy back when she's ready. And with that, Mrs. Kuzer, we'll do the roll call.
Okay, let me get that pulled up 1 second. Mrs. Bechtel?
Present.
Mrs. Rieker?
Here.
Mr. Wenger?
Present.
Mrs. Harold?
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Present.
Mrs. Strite?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
And Dr. Royer?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 8 in attendance then tonight. And before we proceed any further, we're going to have a motion made that basically is going to amend the policy that we've had of requiring a majority of board members to actually be present. So if anyone would like to make that motion that we can go to video meetings, please do so. Okay, thank you, Dr. Royer. Could you read your motion, please?
Yes, I will. Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Yeah, I will move to temporarily suspend all language in board policy 006.1, requiring or otherwise indicating that a majority of board members must physically be present at a board meeting when the participation of any board member occurs via electronic means, and further suspending the requirement for 3 days advanced written notice of electronic participation due to extraordinary circumstances, and recommend precautions arising as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, with said action to be made effective immediately and to remain in effect until further notice.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, take your pick there, Ms. Kuzer. Okay, so we'll just have a voice vote for that. And
Yeah.
I cannot vote because my Chromebook's not hooked up to this, so I'll have to voice vote anyway, as will Bonnie and Linda. So all those in favor then of accepting this motion to amend how the requirements for the meetings, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Okay. Everybody good? I think Pat's really delayed there. Okay, so the next we have is the agenda, to approve the agenda. And the agenda from what we received has slightly changed, though you see the amended one on your agenda on board docs. So the changes are that from what we originally got and what's written in there is we're going to have the superintendent report added as number 5 before public comment, which it turns out we don't have any. And then when we go down to letter D, which is the business for this evening, originally there was another item concerning payment for employees, but that is now a moot point since the governor has issued the requirement that we do that. So we don't have a number 2, so everything will bump up. And what was the other one? The other one is I would like to add, Dr. Klein sent us information about Exact Path. And whether we vote on it or not tonight, I would like to at least add it to the agenda as a discuss act item, if anyone would be willing to, or if anybody doesn't have any objections, since we did talk about not adding anything last 2 meetings ago or whenever that was. So if anybody has an objection to that, could you please voice that? Otherwise, we're going to put that on the agenda as well. Okay, if not, then we will add that at under business. Let's see. What makes sense for that, Dr. Klein? Do you care where that goes?
You could put it with business number 8.
Just put it as 8? Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so we'll add that as business number 8 then. Anything else I missed, Dr. Klein?
No, I think we have everything.
Okay, with those then being clarified, can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes that Karen discussed, especially adding exec path.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Now, is everybody, just for my information, is everybody voting on the computer as well as voice vote? Are they doing that?
I had voted for the previous one because it came up on the screen. This
Okay.
vote did not come up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
about a second behind. My internet went a little slow. Who, can I get the first and second motions?
The motion for the agenda
I made
was
the
Mrs.
motion.
Reeker, and then the second was Mrs. Bechtel.
Okay, got it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Aaron, you're going to be putting all these votes up for them to record as well, right?
Yes,
As well
it's
as
up
the
now
voice.
if everybody wants to do it.
Okay. You tell me when we're ready to move on. Oh, wait, I did get on. Okay, I guess I can do that. All right, good.
Mrs. Harold, you may want to
Yeah.
mention or ask for any no's or any.
I'm sorry, does anyone disagree or would like to vote nay on the approval of the agenda? If not, then that motion will pass to accept the agenda. Okay, next item is the approval of the minutes. Hopefully everyone saw those from what is now 3 weeks ago. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Mr. Wengert, thank you. Second,
Second.
Second.
thank you. Dr. Royer. Anybody have any issues with any of the minutes before we take the vote? No one? Okay, all those in favor then, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, then the minutes are approved. Wow, he's really behind. Okay. Then the next item is going to be, am I incorrect here? Because I had written down something different. Yes, next one is Dr. Klein, basically giving us an update of where we are and answering some questions that he
Thank you.
has heard from. So take it away, Dr. Klein.
All right, well, thank you, Mrs. Harold. And I just wanted to have an opportunity, and I'll keep this on the agenda if that's okay for the next few meetings, or as long as we have to meet this way, as long as the health situation is in act. We'll keep trying to communicate or at least make some sort of statement every meeting that we have. But we've been communicating with our staff and with parents at least once a week since this has all started. This all started back March 16th. We made the decision, a number of districts between York, Adams, and Franklin County made the decision to close for 2 weeks. Soon after that, the governor had followed and closed all schools in the state. So we had 2 weeks there where we were just closed. And then we moved at starting this week, we started to move where the state gave us some direction and gave us some options of what we could do with education. At that point, we decided to go with, through our continuity of education, with an enrichment and review plan. We felt we weren't ready to move to a planned instruction at that point. So we moved this particular week for the next 2 weeks through April 8th with a enrichment and review approach. Beginning on April 14th, our plan is to start instruction, a planned instruction approach. And one of those items to help with that is on the agenda that you added tonight, voted to add one tonight. With that said, we are going to move that way either way, whether it's passed or not. It's just another tool to give us as we move forward. The governor had mentioned yesterday in his address that we would also be seeing districts would be getting an opportunity for some online programs. And we actually have gotten that platform. We put in for it, and we hope that will also help give us some tools for online instruction. So we feel we'll be ready to move forward. We just won't be the greatest at it. And I really believe we're going to get stronger and better at this over the next few weeks and until this crisis is over. Right now, as you know, the governor made it indefinite as far as when schools are closed. So it doesn't matter at this point, starting April 14th, we're going to move forward with planned instruction. And I just felt it was important to share that. And I will put out a message tomorrow to staff and to our parents that we are going to begin on April 14th with planned instruction. So I just hope everybody forgives us with our ineptitude with this to a point. We're going to be not too bad, but we're not going to be the greatest at this point, but we will get better. And we just ask for everybody's patience. Okay, any questions? And Dr. Sternerheim can jump in on things also. She's done a pretty good job with everybody, trying to work with our administrators, and our administrators have done a great job communicating with our staff to get things rolled out. Not just teachers, but our whole staff with our support staff. So, and I know all of our folks, everyone has done a great job trying to pull everybody together and get some work done. So any questions?
I would just like to add that the Continuity for Education for Waynesboro, we have a draft that we will be submitting to PDE, and then we're also required to put it on our website for review. In addition, we have a whole slew of guidelines that we will be pushing out to our faculty, our staff, as well as our learners. So it's definitely a work in progress, but I do want to thank everyone for their teamwork approach as we seem to be looking at each and every day as a potential new opportunity or a challenge. So thank you.
And it is, and to follow up with Dr. Sternerheim, this is an opportunity for us to grow and to become more first choice through being more customized and personalized for kids. So I think we're going to be stronger and better after all this. We just have a lot to learn during that time. The other thing is I'm going to be working with Mr. Erickson over the next week or so. I would like to start doing some podcasts through this whole thing, and maybe they'll continue afterwards, but starting to do some podcasts to give parents an update and our staff throughout this whole thing, that they at least can hear it from us, what we're getting from the state, and just trying to figure out how we're going to get through these next few weeks and however long it lasts.
Questions for Dr. Klein? Okay.
And I want to thank the board also for being willing to do this online. We didn't really have a whole lot of choice. I appreciate you doing a rehearsal. As a musician, we always rehearse. So I like having a rehearsal last week. I think it helped us get ready for tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I know one of your goals is to make sure communication is going out, certainly not just to us, but to the community and all our students as well. So I know you'll do that. So thank you, Dr. Klein. Now, the next item is concerning public comment. And the idea that we had was that anyone could submit a comment to the website that would then be given to me. I would simply read them with the name of the person who brought the issue up. We didn't have any of those tonight. I'm not sure if the public knew how to do that for tonight, but hopefully, if it's, and honestly, I haven't looked at it to see where it is on the website, but if you're having problem, those of you who are watching now, and please let someone know so we can be sure that everybody knows how to do that if it's difficult. And we'll just keep doing that as long as we have to have these live streamed meetings. Okay, the next item is a presentation by Smith, Elliott, and Kearns. Are we ready for that?
I
Believe
believe
so.
we,
Sure.
Okay,
he's going to share his screen to everybody.
okay.
I might do just a brief introduction. Kevin Stauffer
Sure.
is a member of the firm for Smith, Elliott, Kearns and Company. He's been our auditor for, I don't know how many years before I was here. So he's been the auditor here for quite a long time. Kevin could probably tell you how many years it's been, but
So I've been with the firm for 15 years, and I think I've worked on the audit all 15 years during that time period. So,
yeah.
Nick, I'm having a little bit of trouble. It says host disabled participant screen sharing right now.
I'm sorry, I can give you permission. Very sorry about that.
That's okay.
There you go. I just turned it on for you.
And can everybody see the presentation there?
Yes, I
Yes.
can.
Very good. Well, again, I appreciate the introduction. Please bear with me as well. This is my first time doing a Zoom meeting myself. So please bear with me here as we go through this for the first time. I'm going to go through the results coming from your audit this year for June 30, 2019. On page number 2 of the presentation here is just a summary of everything that's going to be covered here in the presentation. Basically, what I've tried to do is take over 100 pages of other documents, and that includes the annual financial report, our independent auditors report, our management letter, and our required communication with those charged with governance, and condense it down into about a 10 or 15 minute presentation for you here this evening. So that's what I've tried to do, and I'll flip through the PowerPoint presentation here with you this evening. Just in summary, before diving into the details, first and foremost, we were able to issue an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best financial statements, and I'll dive into those details on the next slide. Financially for the year, the general fund did utilize fund balance of about $443,000, where the expenditures exceeded the revenues this year. We did have one item that we had to report on. It's known as a material weakness and internal control over compliance. There were no issues with compliance itself, more just an internal control item in regards to reviewing a report. So we'll again get to the details of each of these shortly, but just wanted to provide a high-level summary before diving in. On the next page are just some additional details for the independent auditors report. Again, this is where we, as your independent auditors, issue our opinion on your financial statements. And this year, we were able to issue an unmodified audit opinion, and that is the best opinion that we can issue. But what essentially does that mean? We feel that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. It's not an opinion on internal controls, nor is it an opinion on results of a fraud investigation. I know sometimes people hear the word audit and they think it's all encompassing or that we look at every transaction. Although they feel like it, to Eric and his staff, we do not look at every transaction as part of our audit. We do, again, perform procedures and sampling to ultimately issue the opinion that the financial statements are materially correct. On the next page, we'll now dive into some of the numbers, and we have some general fund analysis. Go through and leave this slide up. On the page right behind it, I'll flash this real quick, are just the explanations that I'm going to cover as part of the presentation. Just wanted to highlight that those are included there. But on page number 5 are the financial statement information for the general fund. So it has the previous year, 2017-18, the current fiscal year that's being audited, 2018-19, and it also compares that to the final budget. So just a couple fluctuations that you'll see are there within the total revenues. This year, just under $60 million. And you can see that as an increase in comparison to the previous year, about $2.5 million. Biggest reason for the increases are your local revenues, which primarily consist of your taxes, and that does include all taxes, and also an increase in the state revenues. Biggest reason for that is the retirement reimbursement as well as pre-K funding that was received during the current year. As far as the expenditures were concerned, an increase there of about $3.8 million or almost 7% for the year. Largest fluctuations compared to the previous year are in the instruction and support services. Most significant increases included salaries and benefits. They combined increased about $2.1 million. And it also saw an increase in your charter schools, pre-K, and Abraxas expenditures during the current fiscal year. So the bottom line for the general fund, if you take your revenues less the expenditures and some small financing sources and uses, you see the change in fund balance, a deficit this year of about 443. Just wanted to highlight that that is the analysis there for the general fund for the current fiscal year. The other fund that I'll just spend a little bit of time on briefly is the medical insurance fund. Starting at the top, the operating revenues, those are the amounts charged to the other funds for the medical insurance. And you can see that decreased in comparison to the previous year. And that's just due to the fact of taking a funding holiday for June 2019. As far as the claims were concerned, you can see an increase there of about $200,000, which basically drove the overall change in that position. So a decrease there of about $154,000 within your medical insurance fund. Again, the increase in the claims as well as taking the funding holiday is what ultimately led to the decrease in the change in the net position. Most of the rest of the presentation here is just graphical analysis. It's much easier to see trends over time than it is a page full of numbers. So the first graph that we have is just the governmental activities. So this is under the full accrual basis of accounting and does record long-term assets as well as long-term liabilities. Highlight the green, the net position is at a deficit. And that's nothing alarming. I think every school district in Pennsylvania is probably in a negative net position there. And that's due to recording of the net pension liabilities related to your proportionate share of the underfundedness of the PSERS plan. So that's what's driving the negative net position there. And that is included there under the full accrual basis of accounting. On the next page, I'll just turn your attention now briefly to the revenues. Going over trends over time, you can see the taxes have increased about $4 million or about 16% over the past 5 years. And that is all taxes, not just your real estate taxes. And the other fluctuation is within your state sources. And although that looks like a positive note because it has increased about $5 million or 24%, the most significant reason for that increase is the 1/2 reimbursement for the retirement. So as you're paying the PSERS, you're getting 1/2 of that reimbursed from the state. So the expenditures increase, again, during that time period, you're getting 1/2 of that back. And that's what that increase there is within your state sources. On the next page, it does offer a little bit of comparisons of the revenues. This information is a year behind, just to offer comparisons to other school districts. So on the left-hand side is Waynesboro. Top right-hand side are schools within the LIU, and bottom right are school districts of a similar size. So for Waynesboro, 47% of the revenues come from taxes, while 43% come from state sources, and your other local here, 7%, is a little bit higher due to the Abraxas revenue that flows through to the districts. In comparison to the LIU schools and the school districts of similar size, their tax revenue is closer to 60%, and again, their state source is closer to the 35%. So just want to give you that for informational purposes on how you compare for your revenue streams for the school district. On the next page, it just looks at your expenditures by function. Overall, you can see fairly comparable across the board, with the exception being in the instruction category. Obviously, that had the largest increase over the past 5 years, and that's further detailed out on the next page. It looks at those same expenditures, only instead of by function, it breaks them down by object. So here you can see the significant increases in the salaries over the past couple of years, and more significantly, the employee benefits. So once again, as the retirement rate has increased during that time period for PSERS, obviously that has increased during that time period. And then your other purchase services include your charter schools as well as your Abraxas, which have increased over this time period. So just wanted to highlight that those are the significant increases over the past several years. On the next page, a very similar graph to what we looked at as far as a comparison is concerned, only looking at it by expenditures for their object. So obviously the largest source of expenditures are salaries and benefits. For Waynesboro, that's 66%, and that's right in line with LIU schools, which are 25%, and school districts of a similar size of 67%. On the top, the maroon and the dark green, that's your debt interest, other debt principal and transfer, so mainly your debt service. Your total is about 9%, where the average for the LIU schools is 10%, and school districts of a similar size are about 12%. So just wanted to highlight that there when looking at the debt service. And once again, the teal color here are your other purchase services. Because of Abraxas, again, you are higher in comparison to the other schools, which obviously do not have that program. The next graph that we have is just a fund balance and net position comparison. So it just shows you your fund balance at the end of each fiscal year For the general fund, again, right around $4 million at the end of 2019. The largest outlier was within your capital projects fund, and that was just due to unspent bond proceeds. Anytime you issue debt and until those funds are spent, you had a significant amount of unspent bond proceeds at the end of 2016. And again, still in your medical insurance fund, still a positive surplus or a positive net position there of about $4 million. The food service fund, I did just want to highlight briefly to point out that that is negative because they do record under the full accrual basis of accounting, and they're recording that liability for the net pension liability and OPEB as well for the underfundedness of the pension plan for PCERS. Last two graphs that we have are again comparison graphs. The first one takes expenditures per ADM or average daily membership. For Waynesboro Area School District, that averages out to just under 13,000. The average within this LIU schools is just under 16,000, and the average with all school districts in Pennsylvania just over or just under $18,000. Just for a comparison for the expenditures per ADM. And then the final graph that we have is just the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures. So for Waynesboro Area School District last year was about 5%. The average in the LIU schools is about 7 1/3, while all school districts in Pennsylvania just under 7%. So again, just a comparison looking at the unassigned fund balance in comparison to the expenditures. Next, I'll just briefly turn your attention to the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. In total for the year, the total federal expenditures were just over $3 million, and that's all federal expenditures. So the program that we tested this year was the Title I program. So as far as our schedule of findings and question costs related to our audit, again, related to the financial statement audit, happy to report that there were no findings. As far as the major federal awards program audit, where we did, again, look in detail at the Title I program, we did have an item to report on as far as an internal control over compliance matter, and it was related to the quarterly cash on hand reports for Title I. They were reported or they were submitted timely. They were accurate as part of our testing. So there wasn't a compliance issue. But what we found was that there was only one individual who was basically completing and submitting the document. So from a segregation of duty standpoint, we just recommend to have an independent review of those before those are submitted. And we understand that that process has been implemented here beginning in 2019 and 20.
That's correct. Thank you.
As far as our management letter is concerned, again, we went over these in detail with management, but some new GASBs that will be affecting the school district in upcoming years. We have those included in that letter. And all of the graphical analysis that we just covered are in a separate management letter and not in the large financial statements themselves. The other letter that we have related to our audit is what's known as the communication with those charged with governance. Had there been any significant issues in completing the audit or disagreements with management on accounting principles, we'd have to report on those here in this letter. I'm happy to report there were no such issues or disagreements, so that's why we just consider it our standard communications letter. So again, in summary this year, again, we were able to issue the unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that we can issue on the financial statements. The general fund did utilize fund balance this year, about $443,000. We did have one item, again, from an internal control perspective related to Title I that we had to report on, but again, happy that it wasn't a compliance issue. So, I know that was a lot of information. I hope somewhat fairly quickly, but I certainly wanted to open it up for any questions or comments related to either the document I covered here tonight or the actual audit documents themselves.
Anyone with a question for Kevin?
I have a question. Normally, we receive a printed hard copy in detail. Will we be receiving that also?
So we provided an electronic copy of both this document as well as the audited financial statements and our letters. I believe Eric was going to disseminate those electronically instead of printing physical hard copies. I think we did down 3 or 5 copies of hard copies. If you need more of those, we're happy to provide those, but I'll let Eric respond with exactly what's happening with the hard copies there.
Sure, certainly, Ms. Reeker. It's a good question. I know you brought this up earlier. We can certainly get a hard copy to anybody that needs it. We were kind of transitioning to that electronic mode, but certainly if somebody would like a hard copy, very easy to provide. I do have a couple copies here in the office as well.
For this specific audit and report, I would like a hard copy, please.
Sure. Will do.
Anyone else want to request one while we're requesting? Okay. Other questions? Okay, well, if not, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
guess we'll go
Kevin.
on to the next item. Thanks.
All right, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Kevin, thank you very much. Appreciate your help here.
Thank you.
Don't we need to approve this?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
believe
we'll,
it's number 3 on the business report.
under the business, right. So that'll come up in a couple minutes. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the board reports, which I'm not sure we had any. Does anybody have anything to report in that category? Okay,
I'll just
if
say
not,
quickly,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Facilities Committee is be searching for a time just to get together, but we're going to be reviewing the planned projects for this 2021 fiscal year, make some recommendations as far as fitting that into the budget and communicating with the budget committee.
Yeah, I foresee problems with anything dealing with expenditures. I mean, we're really going to have to talk about that and figure out once the budget committee can get together and figure out what they're doing, because we're so up in the air as far as any revenues coming in or state help or, whatever. But I mean, there's certainly no harm in prioritizing, which is what the budget or the facilities committee was going to do. So we can still do that. But boy, I think it's going to be, we just don't know, for I'm sure months, what we have and what we can spend. So anything else on board reports? Okay, if not, then we go into the business part of the meeting, and the first item is personnel. Dr. Sternheim.
Okay, I'd like to direct your attention to the personnel. There's 2 items listed. We have a series of retirements, a resignation of support staff, requests for leave, additional appointments for substitute staff. And then on the document for March 31st, we have an additional retirement. So I want to recognize both Linda Kreiner, Nancy Kaufman, and Doug Chris, who are retiring from the Waynesboro Area School District. We also have a series of appointments with summer cleaners and painters for approval. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
Okay, motion on personnel approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Sternheim? Okay, if not, please indicate your agreement with this by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. If not. Okay, then we're ready to go on to the next item, which is the resolution on the cyber school charter. And I don't know who that would be.
Yep.
Who is that? Dr. Klein?
Yeah, that would be me.
Okay.
This is a resolution that is coming from a number of districts in the state, probably a majority of them. If you can see it, it basically is calling for charter school funding reform, and we are supporting that reform as an administrative team, but we also are asking that the board approve this resolution for that funding reform for cyber charter schools, but charter schools in general. So that's basically what this is. And I just asked that if the board would look to approve it, and we could be one of them, the hundreds that have been approved already.
Do I recall that I thought we did something like this earlier? Does anyone else remember taking action on that?
I think it was we had updated this one. It's a little different, I believe. I can go back and check, but I think it's slightly different. We just updated it.
Okay, that's fine. I just thought we'd already done that. And when I looked at the list and I saw that we were not on the list of people or districts that had supported that, I was just surprised. So fine, we can do it again for this change version. So do we have a motion on approving this resolution about cyber school?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any further questions about any of this?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay,
So we approve this and we make this statement. Is this statement sent to someone like our state representative? I mean, what direction does the statement go to make a difference?
I appreciate you asking that. That's a good question, because what will happen, I'll have Mrs. Kuzer send it into PSBA. It can even go into a pen link and be sent around the state, but it will be used by PSBA as far as their approach to going to Harrisburg and saying, our clients support this resolution. And the more of those they have, the stronger influence it can have with our legislators on making some sort of reform. So that's a good question.
So it's going to the Pennsylvania School Board Association. Will it also go to Mr. Schemmel and to others?
We can make sure that happens. It also, we can put it out on PenLink, and that means all of the school districts in the state will get a copy of it and see that Waynesboro is part of that movement to support, the funding reform.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
This is Linda with a question. So, reading through this whole thing, it appears as though charter schools are for profit. Is that the case?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I had not realized that before, and okay, that's good to know.
And you have to realize some of the
That's
brick and mortar charter schools are not as much of a profit-oriented organization. There are many very successful charter schools, but there are also a number of cyber charter schools that are considerably profitable, and that's where the focus is.
Thank you, because yes, I see that taking away a lot of money from our public schools.
And Mr. Holtzman, how much do we spend in cyber school or charter school money?
That number is probably going to be a little over $2 million this year. That number has been increasing by several $100,000 each year for the last couple of years.
And we offer our own cyber edition of that. We have our own form. And if there could be some reform here, some of that $2 million could stay here. And right now, in the next 2 to 3 years, we could use that $2 million to keep heading in the right direction. So hopefully there'll be some reform coming out.
And Linda, before you came on the board, Dr. McCallum did I want to say it was two presentations, excellent presentations about things like there's very little accountability. This is for the online cyber schools, but what we know about their results is the vast majority, I want to say like 80% are at the bottom, showing the results of the kids on the testing. So they're not accountable, and they also don't produce. So those are just some of the issues that we heard about and had discussed before you were there. So.
Well, thank you. And so just for clarification, so we offer our own cyber school, correct?
Yes.
Right. But students may choose any cyber school. Students within our district do not have to sign up for our cyber school. They can sign up for another one.
That's correct. That's correct. And, as much as we all hate what we're going through right now, and this is not the greatest experience to do this, I do believe we're going to become a lot better at online learning and find various approaches to how we approach learning for each child. And through that, when you look at cyber schools, they're really good at doing cyber school, but they're terrible. They don't even touch the relationship and the brick and mortar school approach. But we can do that well. What we don't do as well is the cyber. And if we get better at that, I think we're going to be a lot tougher on our competition in the future.
Right. Well, I guess what I object to is not cyber school if we're offering it, but other people making money off of us
Right.
by operating these cyber schools. They're taking our money for their benefit.
And they also, the report indicated, if I recall correctly, that some of these CEOs of these cyber schools make like $3 million a year. It's incredible, the money that they make.
And that's what I'm visualizing. And okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
I've just learned a lot. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions or comments from anyone before we vote on this? Okay, so we're voting on, we've already had the motion and a second about approving us joining a resolution concerning cyber school reform. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so that will pass.
I'm going to abstain from voting.
You're abstaining? Okay,
Yes, I am.
okay. All right. The next item then will be the voting on the audit. And I guess Mr. Holtzman, again, just give us our little intro here before we vote on what we just heard.
Sure, it's the 2018-19 audit. It was an unmodified opinion. We did have one weakness. It wasn't actually an issue that affected anything, but it was an internal control. And we have mitigated that since then for this year, where we have 2 people reviewing the reports before they're submitted. And it did use about $443,000 of our fund balance this year. And again, that's $443,000 is certainly a lot of money. In perspective, it is about 0.7% of our budget. A lot of the costs that came in through that area were cyber charter was a very large one that increased substantially this last year, continues to increase this year. I don't see that negating. I see it continuing to go up next year as well. And then our special ed costs. And again, not for lack of trying, but again, the special ed numbers are continuing to come in with higher needs, and that's requiring some additional placements.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Holtzman or anything else about the audit? If not, can we have a motion to approve, please?
So
Move
moved.
to approve.
Okay, let's go. Mr. McDonald making the motion. And was that Mrs. Straight? Would you like to second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the next item, which is the guidelines on the rental of the Auditorium. Whoever has that. Who would that be? Mr. Holtzman, maybe?
Certainly, I can bring that up. I didn't know if
Oh, I'm sorry.
if Mr.
was it
Wengert
Dr.
wanted me to
Sternheim?
bring that up, or if he wanted to address it as the chair of the facilities committee.
Well, I can certainly speak to it. Certainly we recognize and appreciate the members of the community that want to make use of our auditorium, because that is a site that suits a lot of large scale performances of that site, of that type. And we are glad to provide, have that our auditorium be used. And we can partner with the community, but there are just some basic things that we need to continue to work on as far as guidelines for use and expectations of how the facilities can be used and are to be used. And it's just guaranteeing that our facilities are in the best shape to meet our central purpose of educating our students. So we did discuss this as a committee, the guidelines that are before you, and we do recommend that the board approve these.
Any questions for Mr. Wengert or anyone else about this agreement?
I don't have a question, but I
Actually-
have a comment.
Okay. Ms. Reeker?
Okay, there are 2 sections, acceptable uses and actions, and then the bottom list is unacceptable uses and actions. Number 15 was added to the under the unacceptable, and number 15 states flowers are permitted for presentation to performers. In parentheses, additional custodial services may be required. Shouldn't that be under the top list and appear as number 5 under acceptable uses and actions?
I believe so. I believe that is what the discussion was about. There were several discussions we've had, and the agreement, to my recollection, is that that is permissible. Only if there is, excessive cleanup required, then the charge would be made. But I agree. I think that should be up there. Does anybody else have a comment on that?
I
Actually,
do.
This is Linda, and my comment was exactly the same as Mrs. Reeker's.
Okay.
I felt that this should be under the top section and not the unacceptable. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Royer?
Mrs. Reeker, maybe you can confirm this for me. I thought you had made a suggestion to have the first paragraph be taken directly from the policy as to the purpose. We were looking at the first paragraph and how that came across, and you had suggested that they take the first paragraph from policy, whatever that acceptable use policy is, and put that in there. Is that correct?
I did. Let me look over it again, but I believe it was changed.
Okay.
So do we want to table this until the corrections are made?
No,
Or-
if she believes, I don't want to go off my screen because I might not be able to get back, but if she believes
Right.
it was changed, I'm fine with it.
Don't you want to change number 15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with making that change.
Yeah, and we can obviously
Yeah,
move it up to the top section.
Yes,
I think we can still,
I agree with that.
noting that change be made.
That top paragraph was changed. That
Okay.
is as it appears in policy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for confirming, Ms. Reeker. I had to double check myself, but that was the intent, that we were going to change it to that same paragraph.
Yeah, thank you.
So the only change then would be to add 15 and put it up there under 5 under acceptable.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So with that change then, do we have a motion to approve these guidelines?
Move to approve. I so move.
Okay, actually
Second.
heard Mrs. Okay, Ms. Spechtel first and Ms. Zimmerman seconding. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, and the next item,
Thank you.
and I was afraid I was going to lose it. The next item then will be the Comcast Cable Communications Management, which I guess is that Nick? Okay.
Yeah, that's me. This is our yearly E-rate approval meeting for our, basically this year, we're looking for approval for a 3-year agreement for 500 megabytes of additional bandwidth for the district at a pre-E-rate cost of $1,100 a month. After the E-rate discount, that goes down to $440 a month for the district. The
Okay.
administration recommends that the school board approves this contract.
Questions for Mr. Erickson? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, any opposed? Okay. Next item is another Comcast agreement.
Yes, this is a 3-year agreement also for our phone service for the district. This comes to $489 a month. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, this was phased out of the E-rate program, so there are no discounts for this. So this takes care of our district-wide phone service for every building, and that is administration recommends the board approve this as well.
Motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Okay, any other questions on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That carries. And the last one, business services.
Yes, this is a Comcast business class service cable modem for the Life Skills facility on 324 West 4th Street. This comes to a cost of $288.35 a month, and this is E-rate eligible. So per month, this would be $115 roughly after the E-rate discount and so forth for the internet service to provide Wi-Fi and so forth for those students at that building, and also to do phone service at that building through our district phone system.
Okay. Questions on this?
Why is
Motion?
it so
Oh,
expensive?
sorry.
This is a business class internet, Mrs. Reeker. This is not like a household. We're considered a business, so that's why it's $288 a month.
Okay, I thought you said it was discounted to 115. Did I
It is
misunderstand that?
discounted. It is discounted to 115,
Okay.
and there are stipulations to that we do need to follow for E-rate, that it does have to meet certain speed requirements, and it's actually cheaper to meet those speed requirements than it is to go off E-rate this speeds.
Thank you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, do we have a motion on this? I don't think I did, or did we? Did we, Ms. Kuzer?
No motion yet.
I'll move
Okay,
to approve.
thanks. Okay,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And now the additional number 8, which is exact path recommendations from, it's either Dr. Klein or Dr. Sternerheim.
I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Sternerheim to try to explain it a little bit better.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Klein. So this is just a follow-up to conversations that we've had both on the academic committee meeting and the budget committee about looking for a program to provide personalized learning progressions for our students K to 8. So in light of our current circumstance, when I talk about opportunities, it was an opportunity for 171 of our teachers to view webinars regarding both of the programs, have an opportunity to interact with the vendors and ask questions, and then we followed up with a survey. So we had discussed the importance of pursuing a program by which our teachers and our students would understand it was a 3-year commitment as we try to continue to personalize the education as we move towards first choice. Exact Path was the program that was selected by our teachers, and I had reached out to them asking them if they could jumpstart with a pilot this spring as a means to help supplement what we're doing now, or what in terms of rolling out with planned instruction. So we had a conversation with them on Monday via Zoom. Both Nick and Danielle were on the call to look at how do we transfer our students over. So in order for this pilot to happen, our commitment is $1,500. However, the contract does require our commitment for 3 years. And that essentially would be the commitment that would roll over into the next fiscal year. But for the pilot to roll, we have to commit at this point.
Okay, so let's discuss this, and then at the conclusion, we'll see if anyone is interested in acting on this tonight. So who has some questions for Dr. Sternerheim?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I think that, we have spent a lot of time in academic committee talking about the need for this and what a great opportunity it was. I think that this item kind of moved from a nice to have to an essential item, especially over, the last 2 weeks. So I think it's great that we can use this opportunity to kind of jumpstart. And I think it fills a void in our current educational programs for, allowing opportunities at both ends, both remediation and enrichment, as well as students working at grade level. Dr. Sternerheim, I commend you for taking advantage of the opportunities to have that many teachers review a product. That would never have happened, without this unfortunate circumstance. But I think it says a lot that we have that many teachers weighing in Because a lot of times when you make this kind of purchase, you have teachers saying, no one asked me, you know, what I thought. So I think you've got the vested buy-in. And that would have been my biggest concern, spending this amount of money, that we didn't have the buy-in of the staff. So I think you've accomplished both of those, and I felt good about the purchase to begin with, but I feel a lot better about it now. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Royer.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
I hope we can possibly pass this tonight. I know we usually don't do this, but it'll make it better for our students to get started right away. If we wait for another meeting, that's that much longer that they won't have this.
I agree, Mrs. Bakewell. I don't think that we're in a position right now, and looking what, you know, districts have around the state and other resources. I think this puts us up in the running with some other districts. You know, we haven't had the fortunate ability to be a one-to-one district and have some of the, you know, we've come a long way in the past 7 years. But I think that I don't think it's fair to our teachers and our administrators and to Dr. Sterner-Hein and Dr. Klein to not give them the tools they need to get the job done.
Actually, this is Linda chiming in, and I totally agree. I think our students have already lost a tremendous amount of instruction, and whatever we can do to bring them up to speed, I think we should do. So I think now is the time rather than tabling this.
Okay. Anyone else on any general comments or questions?
I have
Then I'll
comments.
ask you. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Rieger.
I was at those meetings, the academic and the budget, and I heard what Rita had said and what was spoken about. I agree with Dr. Royer that it was a really good program that we were able to think about. And unfortunately, no one had any idea that circumstances would put us to where we would need it so very badly and so very quickly. So I think that it's happened in a timely manner, and it is to our advantage to take the initiative to pass it tonight. I agree with Linda that we need to do it soon and do it now for our students. So I agree that this has all worked out very well, and I support this. Thank you, Rita, for the work that you've put into it.
Thank you. It was a group effort.
Okay,
It
thank
is
you.
a-
So it sounds
Thank
like we're in favor of going ahead and moving to act on this tonight. Do I hear anybody objecting to that?
Mrs. Harold, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay,
I second.
now are we clear on what the motion would be then, Mrs. Kuzer?
No, could you say that one?
Okay, so Wendy, could you kind of spell it out for her? I know that's off the top of your head.
Yeah, we're agreeing to purchase the current $1,500, I believe, to get it started, as
Right.
well as the 3-year commitment to Exact Path. We're agreeing to that contract. So we're voting to approve a 3-year contract, correct, Dr. Sterner-Hein?
That is correct.
That would be for 2021, 21-22, and 22-23.
Mhm.
Because I think it is important for the teachers to realize, and I think it's wonderful that the principals can communicate that to their teachers, that this is a 3-year commitment.
Yeah, and that was huge. And we, were able to jumpstart it this year. He had offered the opportunity for a few pilots before the closure. Then I was fortunate enough to be bold enough and say, can we have them all for K-8? And they agreed. So definitely.
Okay, so we did include kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
K-8.
Okay, so we have the motion from Dr. Royer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and then was there a follow-up from someone before we vote?
Actually, all I was going to say was, I thank you, Dr. Sterner-Hein, for getting the input from the teachers
Okay.
on this, rather than just making an executive decision. I think this is super important.
Sure,
Yeah.
and again, we're capitalizing on an opportunity here where they, and I'm fortunate, we're very fortunate the vendors were able to provide that professional development for us, and it was interactive, and then even if they weren't available, there were recordings that they could watch, and everyone that watched it did follow up with a exit survey where they were able to prioritize the program and also have a listing of questions that they still had, so
Yeah.
it was a win-win.
I thank you. Yes, I thank you. Mhm.
Okay, if there's no other comments, then let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of accepting this 3-year contract for Exact Path, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then that will pass. Okay, next item are the financials, and that's Mr. Holtzman.
Thank you. We have normal purchase orders and bills for payment. We don't have a purchase order in for the items you just approved, but by default, we'll put purchase orders in for those items as well, just to give you a heads up. But we didn't know for sure at that point whether we'd have purchase orders in ready. But then we have the normal budget income and expenses in there for your approval.
Okay. So we're going to look at all three then, bills for payment, purchase orders, and the other expenses there on item number 3. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Holtzman on any of these items? If not, do we have a motion to approve the financials?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wingert, Mr. McDonald. All those in favor then, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, they are approved. Thank you. Next item is Clayton Cabinet comments.
Two, just real quick. First of all, I hope Mrs. Henderson and the other civics teachers can get their kids to watch us, and we'll have to virtually sign their books, but hopefully she'll still have them do it this way, because this may be the way of the future. So hopefully she'll be thinking about that. The second thing is I wanted to let you know that we had received a $30,000 grant from State Farm, local State Farm agent, Gary.
Lawson?
Yes, or Gary. I'm sorry. What did you
Is
say?
it Lawson?
No.
I think there's a Swanson, Gary
Swanson. That's it. I'm sorry, I should know better than that. But anyhow, Mr. Swanson had helped us get that grant, $30,000 to go towards the special needs house. We're up close to $300,000, not quite there, but almost for that house. So, and that doesn't count the services that have been donated, and that just runs the amount even up further. So I just wanted to share that because we certainly need the money to help run it, but it's really helping secure some things for us as we go through it. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Now,
Any
I just want to
no other
continue to
items to share?
thank all the principals and the teachers and the paraeducators for their work this last 3 weeks here almost. It's definitely been a teamwork approach, and we're learning something new each and every day. So big thanks to the technology committee. They've been doing lots of informative videos for us, lots of how-tos, and so we're all learning from each other.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments tonight?
I would like to say that we had a meeting with the JOC for the Franklin County Career and Technical Center, and we had it via Zoom like we are this evening, and that was on March 26th. And they are moving along such as we are as the best we can.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we don't have any public comment tonight. So that brings us to adjournment. And everyone on the board knows that there is another number that we'll hang up from this and go to call that number into executive session.
And that
Correct.
will be for personnel. and
Personnel.
informational and legal.
Okay. Okay. So, knowing that then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone says no, so, okay, thank you. And the 8 of us will get back on here in just a minute. Thank you.